The USTC Repeg could be massive for the Terra Luna Classic ecosystem. We got a few very important updates to cover today. Let's dive into it. Now, the first major update we need to talk about is Duncan. If you're not aware, Duncan is the person behind the Ziggy Repeg proposal that passed a little while ago. Now, he talks in some detail about a couple different points, but here's the thing I want to highlight for you. I'm not canceling Ziggy despite what your favorite people say. Security comes first. He is shutting down Onyx, and so essentially what happened is he's shutting down Onyx, a validator that he runs, because it's just not profitable for him. It's cost him too much money, and right now he's just not making money back on it, so it's a money sink pit right now for him. And so some people are getting this confused. They're thinking that he's done with Terra Luna Classic, he's shutting down the Ziggy proposal, he's not going forward with it, all that stuff. That is not true. He is just shutting down the Onyx validator. He is not canceling his plans with the Ziggy proposal. The other thing that's worth highlighting is that in this thread, Duncan talks about finances being a really important thing to him right now. If you combine his personal and business liabilities, he's about just shy of $100,000 of liabilities, and he's talked about a couple times how he wants to potentially pursue the option of a community spend proposal for him to continue working on Ziggy because he just needs money, right? Everybody needs money. People need to pay their bills. And he's talked about also applying for a job a few weeks ago, and that's something that he's looking to further. And so we could potentially expect to see a community spend proposal from Duncan to actually help support him as he move forward with the Ziggy proposal. Now, the second thing that we need to cover comes down to the SEC charging Do Kwon and TFL, and in this charge, they actually labeled UST, which was the former name of USTC, as a security. So they talk about how this is an algorithmic stablecoin and how it is a yield-bearing asset, which is something that's kind of interesting here, is that if you recall, through the Anchor protocol, people could earn as high as 20% yield. Now, in my opinion, one of the big problems with how this was originally set up and why I believe the SEC is determining that this is a security comes down to the fact of how the Anchor protocol actually worked. And if you're not familiar, the Anchor protocol works something like this. It was essentially a lending and borrowing platform, as this article highlights here, where you'd essentially have some people lending out and then other people borrowing, and then that ended up returning the yield that it did. And they never disclosed this. This was something else that the SEC brought up in their complaint. And this sentence right here really highlights this and is super critical to the future of USTC. We allege that Terraform and Do Kwon failed to provide the public with full, fair, and truthful disclosures as required for a host of crypto asset securities, most notably for Luna and Terra USD. And so what's important here is that it doesn't say that crypto asset securities can never exist, that they have to be shut down, that this is the end. They say that there has to be full, fair, and truthful disclosures for these asset securities, and they probably have to be registered. And so while this might seem really bad with the SEC declaring these things as securities, there is potentially a couple paths forward. Maybe we have to provide these full, fair, and truthful disclosures. Maybe we have to get away from the lending, borrowing platforms that are heavily regulated, but there is some way, I'm sure, that we can actually move forward here. By the way, if you're getting value out of this video, please consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell down below so you don't miss another video just like this. And with other good news, we can expect to see some results from the Ziggy proposal start to come in very soon. The first thing that we can really expect is the developer consensus, in my opinion. And this is potentially supposed to be done before March. It might be done a little bit into March, but we've seen that Duncan is actually talking to the different L1 task force members. For example, we had Tobias or Zardar here say that he's boarding a train on his way home to meet with Duncan about Ziggy. And so you can see that Duncan is actively reaching out to the L1 task force. He's also talked about meeting with Zardar and LUNC Burn Army before. And so this is definitely great news for us to see that they are actively communicating and talking about the possibility of implementing the Ziggy proposal. And so we can expect to see an update very soon, in my opinion, from the developers as to whether the Ziggy proposal could be implemented or whether we need to see some major changes from the original plan for it to realistically be implemented into our blockchain. Now, if you want to get more key takeaways from the Ziggy proposal and what could happen with the USDC Repeg, check out this video up here, and I'll catch you on the next one.